I had a splendid voice. In fact, I'd sing in opera if they'd give me my choice. I wrote to Oscar Hammerstein that I would be his star. He said, come down and sing for me, and I'll see how good you are. And I don't suppose I'll do it again for months and months and months. No, I don't suppose I'll do it again for months and months and months. I sang the wise old owl, and he left the room at once. So I don't suppose I'll do it again for months and months and months.
Welcome to Series 2 of the Recluse's Cookbook. I'm your host, Vinnie McHale. It's been over 18 months since the last episode of the first series. So what's new with Series 2? This series, instead of it being a monthly episode, it will now be a weekly episode. Every Friday there will be a new podcast episode for the next 12 weeks. Also, if you like what you hear, please like it. And if you know anyone who would be interested in any of the topics on the podcast, then please send them the link. My first guest of the series is Rob Faughnan from Survivalist Ireland. Survivalist Ireland is a survival training company based in Leinster. The skills they teach include, but are not limited to, wilderness survival and building mental toughness. Countless men and women of all ages and from all walks of life from all over the world venture into the wild with Rob and his team of experts, and there they work together while developing their solo skills to survive. Over the course of the interview, Rob gives us basic survival tips and discusses the importance of being aware. If you want to check out more about Survivalist Ireland and what they can offer you, you can do so checking out either of the links I have posted in the body of the podcast description. But first up, and without further ado, here's Rob Faughnan from Survivalist Ireland.
Can you tell me what it is that you're best known for at this moment in time?
Right. Well, so I'm the owner and lead instructor with Survivalist Ireland. I suppose that's how I'm best known at the moment. So we're a survival training company. We've been going since 2012 now at this stage. So we've done a lot over the years, including doing a couple of media events. Probably the most famous one has been the Bernard and Marty Survival Challenge, where we nearly killed Marty Morrissey, unfortunately. But so that was probably the most famous that we've done. We've done a couple of media things, but after that and around that, but that's sort of where we are at the moment. That's probably the best known thing that I'm known for.
Okay, in 20, so you're going just 11 years as a company. Have you seen the market change much in that time, from say when you first started to where you're at now?
Oh, absolutely. I suppose when we started, we seen a gap in the market. There was no one really doing what we were doing. There were companies in England and America that were sort of touching on, primarily England, but there was no one in Ireland. Then around that period, there was believe it or not, the Irish Army actually started taking on Survival Challenge through SEER. They set up their SEER school in 2011, if I'm correct, could be a little bit earlier than that. But you start getting a lot of people who were properly trained through the military in survival. So in around 2014, 2015, there was an enormous explosion of companies. At one stage, there was 13 companies that we were sort of working against. Now, we've always sort of dealt with corporate clients, and we would consider ourselves very professional. All the guys that are employed by us are all emergency service personnel. The majority are SEER instructors, which is survival, evasion, resistance, and evacuation instructors from the military. And then we take in other expertise as we need it. So then, of course, COVID hit, and we had sort of moved away from. We were doing a lot of training with individual clients. We were sort of putting courses out every couple of weeks, but because the competition got so hard, it was so hard to other guys were doing it much cheaper than us. Other guys were doing it differently to us. So we started going more into the client, into the corporate sort of world. Then COVID hit, and luckily during COVID, we had other expertise that we could drop on, first aid training, other things that we could do. So we managed to get through COVID. And when we came out the other end of it, it appears that we're the last ones on the block again. So we're moving since COVID. Really, last year we started kicking off, and we had a really good year last year. So again, we're sort of more dealing with school groups, corporate clients, county councils, Sports Ireland, all those type of things is sort of where we are at the moment. Again, we're still sort of building up to where we want to be as well, So we're hoping now, really from September on, we're going to start pushing out again, going back to the individual clients and that type of thing. So
when a client comes to you, what are they looking for? Generally, what are they looking for, like to get from their experience with yourselves?
That's a really good question. So I suppose I'll deal with the individuals because that's really where we get it. And where we started to where we are now has moved a lot. Well, we started with a vision of what we wanted to achieve. And our vision was not in line with a lot of the clients wanted to achieve. So we were probably a little bit too realistic for what a lot of people were coming from. They were coming for skills. They were coming for an experience. So we were probably more into the really sort of trying to test them mentally, test them physically, and then see could they absorb the information. So we were probably a little bit too hard on our first courses that we ran. But now we're very explicit in what we do. So when people are coming to us, they're generally people who have a certain level of experience, generally, who have watched all the films and want to actually be tested. That's who we're getting. And when people who are coming with that sort of idea in their head, they sort of have some idea what to expect, and then they're able to buy into the process that we put them through. So generally people are coming to us, want to learn the skills, we teach them the skills they need, but they're also coming for the ability to actually put them into practice in a real survival situation, or as close as you can get. You know what I mean, within, like, everything's controls that we do, but we try and put people into a real survival situation. So it is people are coming for a challenge. Look, we have run courses, advanced courses. We're hoping to run one now again in January. That's a 5-day course. And the people who come on that, some of the people who come on that are people who've been through trauma, who have found themselves, maybe lost a spouse. One of them lost a spouse, another guy lost a child, and they wanted to be tested. So they're coming in mentally tough people who want to be tested to their limits. And that 5-day course now was very tough. It's like we have a 33% fail rate on it, so it's not one we run often. But so that's the type of people we're getting for those really advanced ones. But the general one is guys who want to learn the skills, have a level of skill already, but want to be tested.
Okay, and the people like who are showing up, like you gave 2 examples there, but I take it these are people from a broad age range and from different backgrounds and from different countries, maybe even.
Oh, absolutely. Surprisingly, most of the people we get would be in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. We've had people, as you said, on the extremes, but they're generally people who've sort of been around who want to be tested. We're not getting many people under 25. We get some 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds who are interested in it, but the general 80% of the people are sort of 30s, 40s, and 50s. Guys who've lived, who have maybe had a career, who've always sort of said, I'd love to have done something like this, or been challenged, or wanted to join the army, or go on an adventure. They're the type of guys that we're getting. On the other side of it, like the corporate clients, or the school groups, like they're a different type of group as well that we're getting. But the individuals we're coming are generally guys in there, and we get men and women as well. It'll be split fairly straight down the middle on men and women coming. In relation to people from outside the country, we have had we'd be fairly well known within certain circles, that survival circles of such people would be working. So we have had people from America search us out, and people from England a good bit searching us out. But a lot of Eastern Europeans have come towards us because this survival stuff, bushcraft stuff, is big in those countries. So they love to learn it. And a lot of them will come with massive skill that put you to shame. These guys have done it since they were 5. But they're coming for that challenge aspect that we can give them. So we can teach them how to light a fire, and they're looking at us saying, yeah, that's not how I do it. And they can do it quicker, better, and more effective than us. For what? Because they've done it so often. But then we put them into a challenge situation. That's why they're coming to us,
Why is it people want that challenge?
Why? That's what. Look, I understand why people want the challenge. Since I was a kid, I've been challenged by my parents, challenged by my father, challenged by myself, challenged in all the jobs that I've had. There's always been an aspect of challenge. What I'm seeing with a lot of people who come to us is they're people who have never actually been challenged to probably a stage that they're not able to handle. So these, we get an awful lot of professionals, and actually the majority of people would be professional type of people, that have a job, have a career. But some of a lot of them would be into their fitness, they'd be into hill walking, into marathon running, but they've never actually hit that line where they are saying, Jesus, I don't know if I can finish this. So that is why they want to do that. Probably because they're wondering what the line is, maybe. And it is, as you can imagine, from where I'm standing, like when we're running one of these courses, like the line for you and the line for me might be completely different. You know, you and me might come in and we look the same, we act the same, we seem to have the same experience, and suddenly I set a line to meet and I can surpass it and you're stopped 5 feet below it, said, hold on a second, I'm not able to handle this. So we have to be very, very careful when we're pushing people to that limit, if you know what I mean. But I do believe there is a group of people out there in their late 30s, 40s, and 50s who went into a career, have been working in their career, working really hard, have found their level in their career, and are now saying, what if? And they want a challenge. They don't want to go somewhere and learn in a classroom and be nice and relaxed. They want to go where we're saying, hold on a second, we want you to do this. Can you do this? We believe you can. Now go and do it. And if you don't do it, that's your choice. It's not mine. Because I don't think people have that experience too often in other avenues, you know.
Yeah.
Say them, you know, emergency services, things like that. People reach those challenges often in their career, you know. They see trauma, they see different things, but some people never, ever, ever see it, and they always wonder in their head, can I? Could I do it? How would I react when faced with this? You know, so that's generally the groups that we get.
So we're talking about learning a skill set here.
Yeah.
Now, the skill set that you're showing them, the environment you're showing them in is very, very different from the environment that they're used to. Like you said, a lot of professionals, coffee and donuts at work, stuff like that. You know, fairly good pay, houses, gardens, the whole lot. Those skills must surely be transferable back in their everyday living lives. So how can these skills be reused? Hopefully they don't need to be reused, but sometimes they can be.
Yeah. And I suppose that's where we get into what actual skills we teach. So we teach basic camp skills, bushcraft skills. So I suppose one of the key things that we're really about mental toughness. We're about resilience. That's when you do our course, or when the people come to our course, that's what they want to be tested on. They want to be tested on their mental toughness and their ability to show resilience when faced with stressful situations. So we teach them the skills they need to be able to get through a thing. So we teach them fire, shelter, water, food, all the sort of normal bushcraft stuff. We'll teach them a bit about campcraft and all those type of skills that are relevant to a wilderness setting and a hill walking setting and those type of things. But what the actual skills that we are teaching is actually the ability to overcome adversity. So basically, we teach the ability to face failure and take the next step after that failure to try and achieve your goal. Now, those skills are something that are very, very transferable. Now, the skills that we would teach, like we'd always encourage hill walkers to come to us. You know, guys who are out in the mountains regularly, you should be able to survive in the mountains for 24 hours. If you break your ankle or one of your colleagues break your ankle, you should be in a position to stay on the side of a mountain for 24 hours. That is an extreme in Ireland, 24 hours. But if you have that ability, anything less is a bonus. So we would say you should be able to come with us and be able to learn those skills to be able to put yourself in a situation that you can survive and have a bit of comfort for 24 hours. So they're the skills for those people. But the skills that really transfer, and we have had a lot of stuff come back to us about that ability to sort of say, Jesus, they face something very difficult. And they were able to sort of say, well, if I was able to get through that thing that I did there, this is only I know exactly what to do. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. I'm going to deal with what's in front of me, deal with what I can. Whatever I can control, I'll control. If I can't control it, I'm going to do my best to ignore it and move on. So they're really the skills. There are two sets as such, one for hill walkers and outdoors people, and then the one that mental toughness and resilience part.
So can you tell us what is mental toughness and mental resilience? I will hear these terms put about quite a bit, but I wouldn't have maybe a full understanding of what they mean or what they entail.
Yeah, and it is objective. So my opinion on it, I'm looking at it from sort of my viewpoint. So I look at it from I suppose we discuss about what survival is. What is a survival situation? My definition of a survival situation is any situation that overwhelms your ability to deal with that situation. So a survival situation for me could be completely different than a survival situation for you. So it could be anything. It could be getting lost in the woods. It could be a car crash. It could be being on a boat that capsizes. every situation is different to the individuals that are dealing with it. Mental toughness would be an ability to be able to absorb what's happening, to believe what's happening, and be able to make a plan about dealing with what's happening in front of you. I can get into how that works now in a second. Resilience is the ability to overcome failure and to accept failure and to move on, take the next step. So it seems easy. There's I don't think anyone, especially if they're a professional in life and they've been successful in different aspects, like failure. No one likes failure. But you have, in a survival situation, failure is part of the process. So in other words, and we bring it down to the basics, you're going to light a fire. Yeah, I've seen it on TV. You've done it in your back garden. You've done it perfectly. You've done it 100 times in a nice, and everything's perfect. As soon as you do it when you're wet, cold, and under pressure, it doesn't work for you. And that ability to be able to say, okay, it hasn't worked, and not let it overwhelm you to put you into a rut. That's resilience, being able to take that step and saying, okay, that hasn't worked. I'm going to change what I'm doing and take the next step. Or it hasn't worked that time. I'm going to have to take it again and again and again and again. That's resilience. And it's amazing how often you see people that they get into this sort of loop in their brain. They'll be doing something that's not working, it's not working, it's not working. You can see their shoulders slump. You can see it, their whole brain is saying, you're failing, it's not working. Just keep doing this and they'll save you, they'll rescue you, they'll pull it out of you. They'll fix it for you. And that's this sort of mental loop. Whereas resilience is the guy who'll do it again, and then he'll stop and he'll think and he'll say, I'm doing something wrong here. And he'll go at it again. He has that ability to say, okay, yeah, listen, this is my problem, I'm going to deal with it. Now you speak to someone else, then we have different views of that. And again, it depends on the position that you're in, but they'd be my ideas of what those two subjects mean.
No, I think they're two very good clarifications on them, to be quite honest with you, because they are words that we hear bandied around a lot, but I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's about your objective of your understanding of what they are in a situation.
Yeah.
It's
actually interesting that one of the what we base a lot of our teaching, not all of our teaching, but a lot of our teaching on other experts have studied this throughout the place. But one of the guys that we base a lot of our sort of idea of mental toughness and resilience and the ability to survive is on. There's a professor, John Leach, over in Portsmouth University, my old university, by the way. It's a great place. And he's done an awful lot of extensive study on survival. How do you survive? And he has a 10-80-10 rule, which is what we base all of our stuff on. So basically, in a survival situation, whatever that survival situation is, now his initial research was all on capsized boats and in accidents at sea, because he said he was able to do it repetitively. So there was constantly happening new ones. But he basically says 10% of people in a survival situation will deal with the situation. They will believe what's happening. They will make good decisions that will increase their ability to survive. 80% will freeze and do nothing, or expect to be told what to do. And then 10%, the last 10%, will take actions that will directly affect their ability to survive. In other words, will do bewildering actions, or actions that you will find completely crazy, that will go against every opportunity for them to survive. So when we basically put people in that 10% that generally are able to take actions that can deal with situations, or people who've been trained, who've experienced, who visualize situations like this. Experience is the biggest way of broadening the brain. So when you see something completely unbelievable, that you're actually able to stop and say, oh, okay, this is actually happening. And that's where you're able to move into a position to take, at least make some decisions. They may work, they may not, but at least you're in a position to make some decisions. Whereas the other end, the other extreme, that other 10% are saying, this isn't happening. Someone's going to save me. And I'm going to do X. One of the things that people are famous for is that to say there's a fire, someone will stand up and says, everyone stop, stand fast, we'll stay here. Someone will come and rescue us while in the fire. Or there was another one that jumps to mind, where there was a boat was capsized in 2012, I think it was Concordia, and there was a group of people trying to stop the bottles from being broken in the bar, and the boat was turning upside down. So these situations, their head goes into a place that they don't know where it is. And then you've got the first 10%, and they're the rescuers, they're the heroes who see a problem, identify a problem, believe the problem, and then they will say, right, what do we need to do to get out of this? And they're the ones that can generally that will survive. And the 80% in the middle is the other group.
Yeah. So there's a fine line between common sense and panic.
Really. Oh, yes. Yeah. And I mean, they said there's loads of different. It used to be the fight and flight response to a survival situation. You know, that was back in the 1920s that they brought that one out. And then they brought in the fight, flight, and freeze, which is that 80% freezes. They've now brought in the fawn and the flop. So you fight, you fight, you fright, you freeze, you fawn, and you flop. They're where they're going. So they're trying to make it even more details. But I think the 80-10-80. So in other words, the flop, that would be someone who goes into a catatonic state of mind in a survival situation. They're part of that 10% who are going to die, who are doing stuff that shouldn't be doing. The fawn are the people who are trying to say, you know, relax, it's okay, I can talk my way out of this. They're again probably in that 10%. And then the freeze is the big one. And the fight and flight are the top 10%. So it's a very, very fine line. And I have seen it. I've been in situations myself where you believe, when after the situation, you sort of said, I really thought I would have done it differently. I really thought, faced with that, I would have had the wherewithal to do this. And you see that a lot. It is something on the courses that we do see, especially guys who've got that. We call them sofa survivalists. It's not a term that we're trying to be disparaging about, but they're guys who sat in the sofa, who've done all the stuff, have talked it through, have bought the gear, never tested it. And then they come to us and they say at the end of it, says, I really thought I would have done that better when faced with a real challenge, you know. Yeah. So it's an unusual one, you know.
Yeah. So a big part of it is what I'm hearing here is the ability to recognize a problem and deal with it. So I come from a theatre background. What we would call that when something goes wrong and you have to deal with it, and it could happen at any particular stage, is improvisation.
Oh yes. Yeah.
What can you tell us how important? Well, you have a different term for it. Can you tell us what it is, and tell us how you can bring yourself to that point, that through the looking glass point, where you will be able to improvise and adapt to a situation should it happen?
Yeah. So our sort of key, it's one of the key points that we're always trying to teach people. So in a survival situation, in a situation that's going to overwhelm your ability to deal with it, by definition, things aren't going to go right. That you're going to be your skill set is going to be tested. So we always say the best thing to do, and what you should be trying to do all the way through, is improvise, adapt, and overcome. Now that is not my term. That's a term that I have robbed from a lot of other and better people than me. But it's a common term in the military. You have to improvise what you have to achieve the goal that you're looking for. You have to adapt yourself to the situation that you're in, or adapt your equipment to the situation you're in to try and overcome the problem. But your main goal is overcome the problem that's in front of you. How we get people to that situation is, of course, we don't want to give all the secrets away because people come awfully prepared, which has happened before with some of the courses. But what we try and do is we teach you the skills, but the skills that we teach you, fundamental skills, and we teach you, like, what is your goal? If you break, we try and get guys to realize what you're not trying to achieve perfection. You're trying to achieve something that's going to meet the goal that you needed to achieve, and it may not meet it, but at least you're hopefully going to be a step closer to that goal, so you can again restart again and redo something different. And the way we do that is by basically instilling failure. So in other words, that if we're doing we'll teach you the skills, and then we'll put tests, or we'll put you into an environment, and if you're really thriving, we'll make sure you fail. And it's about that sort of saying, okay, why has this not worked? This hasn't worked because of X. Okay, we need to improvise that. We need to find a way of overcoming this reason that's failing. So I may have got halfway to building my shelter, say, for argument's sake. I've got halfway to build my shelter and things haven't gone right. Things just aren't working. So what am I going to do? How am I going to get my head in the space to stop, look around, realize the problem, and move on? Now, for me, that's generally how I would try and now saying I come across as my whole life, just ask my wife and she'll tell you absolutely not, especially when it comes to DIY and things. But in general terms, I try and deal with as much of that as possible in life. You know, you sort of, because you know yourself, there's certain things that no matter how good you try and how it's just not working for you. So it's having that ability to sort of, one of our other acronyms that we say is you stop, you think, you observe, and you plan. And it's that ability to do that. And in stressful situations, it's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Your brain doesn't let you. You know?
Most people have encountered though that at some particular point in their life, where they're at something and then they kind of realize, well, this is not working. I need to go at it a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's having the ability to realize that you've been through that before, but now you have to apply it in a different situation. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. That's exactly it. And you're right. Nearly, I'm sure everyone at a certain point has dealt with this. The difference is when you're faced with something that's overwhelming you, every single sense is going in different directions. Your brain is searching to try and find some memory that can help you in the situation you're in. So it's all it's very simple. Like improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's a simple concept, and as you said, everyone does it. But it's when you're put into a situation that is stretching you mentally or physically, and the physical will stretch the mental. That's where the resilience and the mental toughness comes in. Because that's the difficult part. That's where people don't do this. And as that 80 or 10-80-10 rule, that's where that happens. Where you like you're sitting there saying that's we've all done. You're right, but in certain situations, it just doesn't click. It doesn't work. And after the situation, you'll be sitting there, as I've said, you'll be sitting there saying, "How the hell? Why the hell didn't I just do X?" So it's the ability of, I suppose, how do you get it across to people? You have to put them in a position that it's not work. Well, how would I word this? Like, how do you? Everyone thinks, every normal person, as you said, living in a lovely house and everything's perfect for them, and they're intelligent and they're thinking through things and they visualize what they want to do and they practice and they learn a skill, and they think that they're competent with that skill. And then they're facing a position that things aren't exactly as they were in the sitting room, and things aren't working. And can they get back to the fundamentals of the skill to make it work? And I think that's the hard part that people rarely get tested on. And sometimes in a survival situation, it is life and death that they suddenly find themselves tested on that aspect of it. You know, yeah. So I suppose that's the.
Okay, so what are the most common survival situations that a person can find themselves in? You know, I'm talking daily, like
Yeah. Well, I suppose we'll talk. The easiest thing, we'll talk about the wilderness thing, which is like you can't train really for car accidents. You can't train for something crazy happening in your life. But the wilderness, I suppose, is the easiest one to discuss. And it is, as I said, a fundamental part of our courses that we teach. What we find when you actually go researching incidents of survival. Now, again, when we're talking in Ireland, I'm not talking about people freezing to death on the mountains in Ireland, but a survival situation is a situation that you've lost control of, that you're going to need assistance with. So you're calling mountain rescue. Invariably, what you find is that the situations are multiple mistakes layered on top of each other, and people not identifying early on that there's a mistake happening. Like when you talk to people who get lost, which happens quite regularly, you know, it's sort of it can happen anywhere. It's used in forests, and it's very easy to get lost, get disorientated. What you invariably hear from people who get really lost is that they realized they were lost and then kept going looking to find their way out. Similarly, in Ireland, one of the biggest things that we see with guys who say have fallen on top of a hill and they get a twisted ankle or a broken ankle and they can't move, so they're now in a really bad situation. They can't self-rescue. They're stuck. What has generally happened is that there's been issues coming up to that point, whether it's dehydration, in other words, they haven't been monitoring water being brought in, or they haven't brought any water, or they haven't brought enough water, or hypothermia, which is really common in Ireland. So people would be going out dressed inappropriately, they get wet, they begin to realize there's a problem, but they keep pushing on. And then more problems start happening. They're getting all tight and stretched. It's tight from the hypothermia. And next thing, they fall. Probably fall once, nothing happens. Fall twice, nothing happens. And they fall on the third time and they get a major injury. Ideally, what they should have done is, one, identify that there was a problem with either hypothermia or dehydration. that they should have, well, first prepared for it, I suppose, the easiest way of saying it. And then the second thing is, once it starts coming on, understand the signs and symptoms, and do either make it known to your group, or else have the wherewithal to say, okay, I need to stop here. This something's going wrong. Because there's no point in, once the injury has happened, you've put yourself into a situation now that there's nothing you can self-rescue from. The thing with dehydration, we call them the silent killers. Dehydration and hypothermia, they sneak up behind you. And if you're not experienced with them and you haven't had them, or you haven't witnessed them, they sort of sneak up the back of your head, and next thing they're in your brain before you know what's happening. Both of them cause an altered level of consciousness. So they can change how you think, they can change how you act. And invariably, that can happen if someone doesn't have experience with these things. Suddenly, they don't realize it's happening. But when you've got an altered level of consciousness and you're walking up a hill across rocky ground, you're all tight, all your bones are tight, all your blood, with hypothermia, all your blood is in your core, so your fingers are tight, your arms are tight, your legs are tight. It's a recipe for disaster. And when your head isn't working correctly as well, these are the things that cause you to get in those situations. So they're the two most common: dehydration, hypothermia, and lack of preparation.
Okay. First of all, so dehydration, what are the symptoms of dehydration? So for someone who's never experienced it before, what should they be on the lookout for?
Well, I suppose we'll talk about from an individual and then from a group. Of course, the first thing is you have to think, like, how much water do you think you're going to, if you're going hill walking, like, how much water do you think would be average to bring? Say you're going to do a 4-hour hill walk, 5-hour hill walk. How much water do you think you bring?
Honestly, 2 liters, 3 liters at the most. Yeah. I drink a lot of water.
Yeah, 3 liters is a big amount of water, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but some guys will bring 500 mils of water and they'll drink it before they start walking. You know, they'll bring a small little bottle. You know, those ones they get off the shelf.
Yeah.
So you do need quite a bit of water. It all depends on the environment you're going into as well, naturally. The signs and symptoms internally, the first one, there's a thirst comes on, but dehydration is not only a loss of water, it's also a loss of salts, the electrolytes in the body. That's what's actually getting you. The loss of electrolytes is what actually starts affecting the brain. So you may not feel the thirst. Of course, thirst is going to be one of the key signs that you're looking for, but you may not feel the thirst because all the salt is coming out of you. But one of the key things, and the most obvious ones, is a headache. When you start getting a really bad headache, that's a sign of hypothermia, dehydration. Dehydration as well, you get cramps. Because you've lost all the salt out of your body, you start getting crampy and you get tight around your joints. They're the two main things. One of the signs that we always look for when we're looking at someone else, you'll see, we call it the mumbles. You mumble, you grumble, and you stumble. This is the same for dehydration. It's a great term. You mumble, you grumble, and you stumble. So with that, we always look for how people, when I'm leading a walk or leading a group, I'll always look and see. So if someone's really chatty with me and he stops being chatty, that's a warning sign. If someone is not chatty, quite an introverted type of guy, and suddenly he gets really chatty, that's a warning sign because it's an altered level of consciousness. Also, the mumbling. People will they won't talk properly. They won't be able to make articulate. So if I'm talking to you and you're giving me full sentences back, suddenly I'll say, well, how are you getting on now, Brand? Are you thirsty? No. Have you drank water? Yeah. It becomes much more tight. So there's a change in how they're working. The grumbling, because they've got headaches, because they've got cramps, they'll grumble. Oh, I'm really feeling, can I stop for 5 minutes? This isn't, I need to break, I need this, I need that, I need the other. So they grumble a lot, and then they stumble. So you can actually see with both of these, you can actually begin to see them. As I said earlier on, what generally when people end up with a broken ankle, they've already fallen 2 or 3 times before the break or the fall that causes the break. So they stumble. The reason that is because everything's getting tight. You've tight calves, you've tight joints, everything's getting tight, and you're losing that normal dexterity that you have, and then you stumble. So mumble, grumble, and stumble for dehydration. Colour as well, of course. Generally, they'll be pale up around the high parts of their cheeks, or they can get really, really flushed, but that's when you're moving into heat stroke and all those type of things as well. Now, we don't want to get down to first aid. First, if you're going up into the mountains and you're leading a group, you should have a first aid course. It's the basics. So that's the dehydration. Hypothermia is, again, silent killer. I've talked a lot. I've been hypothermic loads. It used to be a pastime of mine to get hypothermic on a weekend. One of the first things I get with hypothermia, I get jaw lock. So basically what is happening is that all the blood, again, sneaks up on you. You'll feel cold, but it can happen from wet socks. So you have all the gear on, but your feet get wet, and suddenly the cold goes from the bottom. All the blood goes into your core to support your heart, your lungs, your brain. First thing that stops is your digestive system. Body doesn't need your digestive system when you're getting really cold. So all the blood is pulled from that into your core. And again, mumble, stumble, and grumble. Different reasons for it this time, though. So you mumble generally because of jaw lock. You grumble because you get sore. Because, again, you're losing that dexterity because all the blood is in your core. It's not in your arms. You can't move your fingers. Fingers are getting all tight. Your legs are getting all tight. Your feet are getting all tight. And then the stumbling starts happening. It can be a killer. And one of the key things that we find with hypothermia is that when guys find themselves that they are hypothermic, they've got to a stage, they mightn't be really, as in hypothermic, as in life-threatening hypothermia, but they're in a stage now where they've lost the dexterity in their hands. They're shaking. They're unable to think properly because of the altered level of consciousness, because there's less blood being pumped around the body. The brain is not thinking as it normally did, so you can't think. Your decisions can be ineffective or not as good as they would be if you were in your full senses. But then you're trying to light a fire with hands that don't work. You're trying to build a shelter with hands that don't work. You're trying to put on a bandage. You're trying to put on extra clothes. I'm sure you've gone swimming in cold, say in the sea down in Galway, and you've come out and you're freezing and trying to get your socks on with freezing hands. Yeah. So that's, you can imagine if you're after breaking your ankle or someone else has broken their ankle and you're trying to deal with your hands after getting into a situation into that stage where you can't use them. So that's them. Again, the mumbles, it's what we say with any group that we teach, any hill walking group or any scout group, mumbles are you're watching out for the mumbles, the grumbles and the stumbles. And if you see them, you should stop and identify and at least assess with a view of what could it be. Dehydration? Yeah, probably going to be hot. Okay, didn't bring enough water. Hypothermia, it's going to be cold, could have got wet. For that 2 minutes of stopping, putting an extra pair of socks on could save that future issue that you're going to have.
Yeah. Okay, so you've mentioned the word group there on a couple of occasions. As I was telling you before, I'm a massive fan of The Island with Bear Grylls.
Yeah, very well done.
I can't get enough of it, and I am that kind of sofa watcher, kind of going, oh, well, I could do that. But there comes a part in every episode, in every series, there always comes a part, the group, and I'm fascinated by this, the group dynamic within a group. So you'll have the people who are doing pretty well, and at some particular point, the group dynamic begins to break down. Yeah. And it's like, it's on the brink of disaster. And we know like nothing's going to happen to them. But I've recognized myself from working in groups, not the same situation, but the same dynamic happening where we're working on something and all of a sudden something happens in the middle of it and the communication, the dynamic just completely breaks down.
Yes.
And it becomes bedlam.
Yeah.
Absolute bedlam. And that's the reason when I kind of go, oh, I could do it. But I know in the back of my head, I couldn't do The Island with Bear Grylls because having been in similar situations where the group dynamic breaks down, that's where I'm most likely at my particular point to pick up and go, oh, bollocks to this. I'm off to do my own thing. Which in an island situation is not a good idea. I think if you're with a group. How can you go around trying to rectify that situation? Can you fix it? I mean, it seems like something that is like, it could be nearly fatal if it's not solved, or at least amicably resolved.
Absolutely. That's a really hard question. I've seen it a lot. I suppose I'll speak of it from personal experience. Let me think about this one now. Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Listen, everything is very difficult to deal with. Like any type of group dynamics can be difficult to deal with in normal life. When you're adding stresses, like massive stresses, and as I said, a survival situation can overwhelm. We're all both going to react differently to it. So I might be quite comfortable, and you're under massive stress, like really emotional stress, physical stress, and you're looking at me saying, "What is that bastard on?" You know why? How? And that. There's a jealousy there. There's a you're looking for something to lash out at, and that's where these things can happen. Common goals is the easiest way of doing it, and having achievable goals. We're big into that achievable goal thing. I mean, if we say, okay, lads, we're going to build a shelter for 15 people, that's a big job. That's an enormous job. So, but if you say, listen, lads, what we're going to do is today we're going to put a tarp up, and then tomorrow we're going to find the stuff, and then maybe the third day we'll do it. So you're breaking into manageable chunks, in the hope that, like, I might have in my head, this is where I'm going to be in 3 days, but I know that's not where you are in your head. But I know that I can get you to the tarp. So that's how I would do it. But again, having a hierarchy comes into play as well, which can be really difficult when people don't know each other. And especially, as I was saying, there's the 80-10 or 10-80-10 rule. You're always going to have that 10% that are just cantankerous, that are very difficult to deal with, and may just want to say things and do things just to be heard. So it is difficult. Now, only recently, we had a course, and this is one of the issues around bringing different individuals together, because they don't know each other at all. It can work very well sometimes. Some people will thrive in that situation. I have to say, women generally thrive amazingly well because of they're just much better at how would you describe it? Working the group and being able to achieve goals and set goals and work with people to, maybe not overtly as in being in charge, but they'll get what they need to get. And then when you put them under stress, they're much better switching in their head. But we had a group there recently, and again, a sort of solid group, professional people, really professional people, excellent, really good people. And then we had another, and this other guy came in, but he wanted to do what he wanted to do and wouldn't listen to anyone else, up to the point where he actually caused a large branch to fall on one of the other participants. So his actions caused an injury on one of the other participants. Now, we were standing off watching this happen. How do you deal with that as the group? Very, very, very difficultly. They did, but I can tell you it got hot for a good 20 minutes. It got really hot. So it's a difficult one. I mean, they do say that in every group dynamic, you're going to have your leaders, you're going to have your followers, and then you're going to have your politicians, the guys who are going to be able to get everything to work. And they're all needed to make it work. Now I will say some of this, like I've been out doing, when I was training in this, and when I was going over seas, doing this type of training and doing this type of work, working as medics overseas and things, you'd be working with teams that, you'd have less of that because everyone's professional. Everyone is either achieving the same goal or has experience and has worked in a hierarchical environment or a stressful environment. So you have much less of that ego that jumps into it. So that again, that's the professional element. You get much less of that, but it is something that is the word I would bring. Ego is trying to control people's ego can be very, very difficult. I don't know the easy answer to that question,
Where do you see Survivalist Ireland going now in the next 5-10 years? What would be your main dream or goal?
Dream, Ginny. Yeah, I suppose. Well, that's a good question. So the aim, what we're hoping to do is we're going to move more into. We're hoping to move more into media. That's what we're hoping to do. We have a couple of plans in place where we're trying to move into working with different media companies, offering speciality expertise and different things, and some of the other things that we do as well. For Survivalist Ireland, we're doing a good bit with corporate groups. We are going to, from next year, from September, as I said, we're going to start opening up groups. We've a lot on now in September, October, but we're going to start opening up for individual groups to come back in. Yeah, that's really what we're hoping to do. The dream would be that we would be taking regular big groups in. That makes it much easier for us. So we're taking in, say, football teams, senior corporate management, those type of things, dealing with schools, transitioning your students and bringing them in, giving them a unique experience. That's ideally where we want to be moving into. We sort of are nearly there. It's just getting that word out now to start taking the extra bookings. We have our curriculum. We've a number of curriculums that we have set up for different courses, different outcomes, learning outcomes we're looking for. So they're all set. What we're hoping now is that we can actually start moving into that sphere. But our main goal, which is something it's a project we're in the middle of doing at the moment, is to move in towards media, and try and become more of a consultancy group in that type of environment. So you never know. Hopefully, we've done it previously, so hopefully there'll be more opportunities in the future.
Well, where they say where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're just waiting for the right person or the right. You know yourself. You know you're in theatre. We've good things. We've never really gone looking previously, and things have come and found us because we're unique. There's no doubt about what we do. There is a level of crazy with us that very few other people do. But now we're actually trying to formalize that package and actually go out and start advertising, as in basically looking for work. So hopefully things will come back in. So that's where we're hoping to be.
So that wraps up the first episode of the new series. A big thank you to Rob Faughnan for taking time out of his busy schedule to talk to me. If you've enjoyed the episode, please like it and share it with anyone who you think might be interested in its contents. We're back next Friday with a brand new episode. Until then, you've been listening to the Recluse's Cookbook, and I'm your host, Vinnie McHale.
My mother always told me that I had a splendid voice. In fact, I'd sing in opera if they'd give me my choice. I wrote to Oscar Hammerstein that I would be his star. He said, come down and sing for me, and I'll see how good you are. And I don't suppose I'll do it again for months and months and months. No, I don't suppose I'll do it again for months and months and months. I sang the wise old owl, and he left the room at once. So I don't suppose I'll do it again for months and months and months.